Blueprint is the best health protocol developed in history. Prove me wrong with your data.
For the last 75 days, I've been following a blueprint that I designed to beat Bryan Johnson.
Someone beat this, it would be the best thing ever. Like, I would absolutely celebrate it.
And let me just say, I'm close. My pace of aging is 0.72. It means biologically, I age just 262 days per year. And that's just 2 days away from
Bryan Johnson.
Bryan Johnson.
Millionaire entrepreneur Bryan Johnson.
Yes, Bryan Johnson, the dude who went viral spending $2 million a year for his anti-aging protocol. Anti-aging protocol. No question, Bryan's blueprint inspired me. But since we're all different, all our health protocols need to be personalized. However, I have a much smaller budget, and so I decided to build my own cheaper blueprint and call out the $10,000 Blueprint Challenge. The goal? To age slower than Bryan with less money. Now that I'm over 2 months into the challenge, I believe that I have arrived at a protocol that can beat Bryan. It was quite a process, but through following these 5 simple steps, I made it. Now let me tell you the story of how I did it. To start off, I needed to establish a baseline. So I sat down and made a list of things that I already tried out or implemented for better health. I've been fascinated by extending my health span since 2018, and there's been a whole bunch of things that I started, stopped, or tried out for a while. For example, I quit smoking and excessive partying, I tried CrossFit and being vegan for a couple of years, went to multiple meditation retreats, or started using seasonal ingredients in my cooking. So now I know what led me to this point. And since we cannot improve what we don't measure, it's time to capture some data for our baseline. Through my Oura Ring and Apple Watch, I was already tracking things like my workouts, sleep, heart rate, HRV, and more. But for a complete picture, I needed to do an extra round of tests. So I went and got my blood work done, measuring 42 blood markers. I tested my pace of aging with True Diagnostics. So this is my blood sample. Off it goes. And performed various ACSM fitness tests or the Cooper test to find out my VO2 max.
I just finished the Cooper test and I beat my last result. 12 minutes and 3 kilometers. I love it.
Establishing my baseline was pretty much the biggest cost block in the beginning, and I spent round about $637 just on testing. Testing is expensive, I tell you. Okay, so now that we're waiting for our test results, it's time to talk goals. And high level, they are already pretty much determined through the challenge rules, which are: let the 10K last as long as possible. 2. Automate my health. And 3. Slow my pace of aging. However, in my opinion, it makes sense to add 2 more goals that are a little bit more detailed. Goal number 4 would be to achieve optimal clinical outcome range for all my tested biomarkers and double down on improving markers outside the normal range. And goal number 5 would be that at the end of the challenge, I would like to arrive at a protocol that I can maintain long term. This means that the protocol I'm about to design actually needs to fit in with my personal life circumstances and my priorities. And for that, let me tell you a little bit about what my life exactly looks like when I'm not recording videos for you guys. So me and my partner just moved together. We are going to get married soon. We're now settling into our life as a family of 3. Professionally, I quit my tech job 2 years ago.
Yes, this is the actual weird dance I pulled off after handing in my resignation.
And since then, I've been working hard on several things. On the one hand, I want to make this channel fly and transform my passion for longevity into a full-time profession. Then I also have a small e-commerce side hustle where I'm selling things like those belts and these pouches, no ad, just sharing. And last, I'm currently also being trained to become a certified cognitive coach, but more on that later. Yes, as you can see, there's a lot going on in my life, just like for most of us, and everything health needs to fit in around that. And this is where the automation goal just becomes so much more important in designing my protocol. Automations could be anything from buying things in bulk, meal prepping ahead for the week, sorting your supplements into containers, or what I find most important is to actually just commit to stick to the protocol so that you waste the least amount of mental energy on deciding whether you should do that exercise today or not. That's why on my Blueprint website I even highlight all the automations I implemented in separate sections. Okay, so I just got my test results back and there's over 80 pages of data here that I need to go through in order to derive the right actions to put into my protocol. So I would say, let's dive in. Since I'm no biologist or medical professional, it took quite a few days to actually get to the core of my data and lab results. Okay, so this definitely took some time, but now I know a lot more, I saved a ton of money, and I have a draft protocol. Now, I'll spare you the detail of each and every one of my tested markers. But if you're curious, you can find them all on my Blueprint website online. Much rather, let me share the most significant database changes that I sorted into my 5 longevity pillar framework. In pillar number 1, physical health, I decided to focus on increasing my cardio fitness and strength. So that means on top of my daily yoga, I'll be adding a new fitness routine that's inspired by Andrew Huberman, but focuses mainly on bodyweight exercises. Diet and supplements. This was the hardest to put together. Not only because I needed to find a meal and supplement regimen that would help me improve on the markers I was lacking on, like for example I had some protein insufficiencies and not enough iron, but also, and that was the hard part here, a meal plan that makes my family happy. And simply put, they were not so amused by super veggie every day. So next to a stricter set of diet principles, the biggest changes are that instead of breaking fast with lunch now, I break fast with breakfast and have my last meal before 3 p.m. Also, I rigorously meal prep all ingredients ahead of time, so that makes everything easy to assemble and saves time during the week. As to supplements, I'm now at a list of 26 different pills and powders that I mostly take with my green giant smoothie in the morning. And by the way, this is like the most supplement stacked I've been in my entire life. Let's see if it has any effect. We'll find out with the next test. My sleep is already pretty solid, and for the challenge I would like to introduce proper sleep hygiene and consistency. So for example, I completely darken my room, I aim for an hour of wind down, and I try to be in bed before 10. I also added some experimental stuff like blue light blockers or grounding bed sheets. Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy, or short REBT, helped me a lot during my life. It taught me how to think healthily. So right now I'm doing 2 things to perfect my understanding of it. I'm studying and being trained to become a certified REBT coach so I can share my knowledge, and I'm trying to add to that knowledge through a lot of complementary reading. The area of mental health is much bigger than this, but for me it makes up the biggest component, and if you're struggling with mental health and you want to have my #1 reading tip, then go check out this book from Albert Ellis, who basically founded REBT. Last, being an avid meditator for over 3 years now, I commit to not skip a single meditation during this challenge. And I plan to visit 2 8 to 10 day meditation retreats this year. Now, of course, there's a gazillion other ways to structure your longevity blueprint, but this is what works for me because each of these pillars for me is important enough to stand on their own, and maybe it helps you to design your own blueprint. What do you think? Would you do anything different? Leave a comment below. To be honest, putting this protocol together wasn't a linear process. It was more like I designed my blueprint bit by bit and then gradually eased into it. Here's how it went. I started implementing my fitness plan first, since it felt like the hardest part to implement. The daily morning workouts, as opposed to twice a week, represented the biggest change to my daily schedule. And starting the challenge with the hardest part had a nice effect that everything else feels a little bit less hard and kept my motivation to continue high. Then I assembled my diet plan, which took a lot of iteration to keep the family happy. And when my test results arrived in week 4, I again needed to make changes and design my supplement stack. Luckily, mental health and meditation already was a cornerstone when I started off, and so it was easier to maintain from the challenge start. By the way, I cannot overstate just how important meditation and mental health have been to my capability to actually pull this whole challenge and protocol through. Let me know if you want to know more about this. In total, it took about 6 weeks to arrive at the protocol that you now see online. Okay, next we need to keep track and measure success. And this is where the challenge comes back in. Not only will I assess my progress continuously throughout the challenge, but also do tweaks as I gather new data and experiences. I plan to do the blood and epigenetic tests every 3 months and the fitness tests every 6 to 8 weeks. Now let's talk finances. Alright, as of today, 75 days into the challenge, I spent about $3,760. Let's break that down. As already mentioned, tests for the baseline cost me $637. I also spent $1,006 on new sports equipment and devices to track data through, for example, a grip strength tester, a blood glucose monitor, and the same scale Bryan Johnson uses. Now to the running costs. My breakfast is always the same. It's this delicious muesli topped with my green giant smoothie, together with some fruit and nut butter, and it costs round about $5. Now my supplements all together cost roughly $6.8 per day. My snack is around $1 daily, and my lunch cost varies because the meals vary, but altogether I spend on variable costs on food and supplements $24 to $28 per day. On my website, I share the full protocol, all for free, together with resources that you can download, and I hope it serves as a source of inspiration to you to design your own blueprint. On top of that, I would be super curious to hear from you which part of my blueprint you would like to hear next from, so please leave a comment. And with that, thank you for watching.
And here, some more weird dancing.